Alrighty, everybody. Now we're on our third video here. So, going to finish it up today. We're talking about presenting research posters. Now, as a presentation class, you might ask, research posters? Those are for grad students. Well, want to go through this quickly because when you become a grad student, I have yet to find any resources on research posters. So if you're an undergrad, just come along for the ride. Give an overview, go quickly. If you're thinking about grad school, pay close attention. So anyways, let's get started. So research posters, why should you care about them? Then I'm going to talk about making a research poster, which here comes back the storytelling part, but then also how to design, then how to present your poster, and then of course advanced poster concepts, which was just nothing really more than infographics. So let's get started. All right, why should you care about research posters? Because somewhere in this mass of humanity, after COVID, you'll be there and you have to stick out. That's the main thing. You've done your research, you've written a report, now it's time to go show the world. And then you find out the world's out there. So this is part of the reason I want to show you the best practices for research posters. So here's another case. Find yourself in that. Somehow it's like dating where two people want to talk about the same subject. You have the research, they have to find you, they have to figure out how to find you. And that's always a struggle. So, but again, what you'll do is you're assigned a board, you put your research poster up on the board, and then you stand in front of it for about an hour or two as people come in, read your research poster, and ask you questions. It's actually a good process overall. You just have to get used to it. All right. So, but it's not just putting your research poster together. It's really about telling who and what you are and what your story is. So remember that storyboarding where you tell a story from where you started from, what you did, how you did it, and what you learned. That's the research poster. So they're very popular prior to COVID. Post COVID, they'll come back. So you'll probably be invited. The great news about a research poster presentation, you're unlikely to fail. But the upside is huge if you have a well-designed poster. It's kind of funny because the expectations are not that high, so you can only go up. But the higher, the better you are, the more you'll stick out of the crowd. All right, so like example, here's a research poster I put together. I think this is horrible, believe it or not, but this is what I put for urban planning together. But you can kind of see the layout. Here's another one, which is more vertical that I put together for a project on creating smart cities. Again, if I could go back, it's too wordy, way too wordy. I got the pictures right, but way too wordy. Another one for Hyperloop competition. This wasn't so bad. This was actually how we levitate a train, a traditional train using Hyperloop technology. Yeah, that's a different story for another day. But essentially, you see the layouts. All right, so why? What do you need to consider? Of course, it's the audience. I mean, one theme, two themes in this class: audience, 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 practice, practice, practice. Focusing on the audience, you want to avoid too much jargon. You want to don't only use acronyms when you have to, and if you do, you define them more than once. Because if you just define them once, they'll forget what the acronym stands for. So then on top of it, know your audience background. A lot of times at these conferences, everyone will have a similar background, which makes it easier, but there'll be times that your research poster will go out to the general public. So be aware of that. So when planning your poster, have an idea of what connects you and your audience together with a simple message. Goes back to storytelling. And then how do you keep the audience engaged? Explain why they should care. How will it help? Keeps the audience focused and try to create suspense, saying, this is where we are. This is a problem. Do you want to see how we're going to solve it? That's the case. So making a research poster, Adobe InDesign is actually probably one of the best softwares I found, but it is quite pricey for a subscription. PowerPoint, you can make one. That's the cheapest alternative for students. And then there's other software and services out there. But in addition to your poster, if you ever go out there, you want to make sure you have business cards and models. And By models, I'm not talking about beautiful people that stand in front of your poster. No, I'm talking about actual models of your technology, especially if you're doing mechanical engineering, so that, it's incredibly powerful if you have a poster behind you, but someone actually can hold the technology in front of you. So if possible, that's a model. If you're a civil engineer, sorry. Well, you might actually have a model. What are we talking about? I'm not sure where you're going to put your bridge, but good luck on that. All right, number one mistake with research posters: too much information. If you have a research poster in front of you like this, the person approaching you has no idea where to start. They don't have all the time to read this. They'll get confused. They'll try to figure out, they won't know what the point is. And even they'll stand around awkwardly reading this. That's why a picture is worth 1,000 words rather than putting all this text on the page. So, part of the rules for research: don't be afraid of white space. In fact, 40% of your poster can be blank white space. It's actually very comfortable for the reader and allows you a lot more flexibility into the story that you want to tell the audience. Use pictures. Most important thing. Real pictures will help the audience identify what you're discussing. Diagrams and other visuals, extraordinarily important, but also make sure that you can see them from afar. And then bullet points, summary bullet points with as few words as possible, just like a PowerPoint, is extraordinarily helpful when making these posters. Second, quotes in bold, large lettering help tremendously. They kind of tell the audience who is viewing a poster where to start. Left justification is recommended. And colors, not too many, but 2 to 3 colors outside of the pictures and diagrams are very helpful and will make it easy to see. Don't use dark colors or patterns as backgrounds. White overall is the way to go, easiest. Then text headers in bold lettering will help the reader navigate the poster itself. And text body, you want to make sure it's visible from 6 feet away. Nothing smaller, just like a PowerPoint, than 24 point. And it's better to use a serif font such as Times New Roman. Don't use anything like Comic Sans. For some reason, that font became known as lackadaisical. You want something more formal. And again, don't assume acronyms or abbreviations. And finally, use more, actually I meant finally, but use more general terms so those outside your field can understand your work. So you might be an engineering conference, which it might be biomed, but you might have mechanical or civil engineers there. So you want to make your poster applicable to anybody, so anybody can walk up and understand what you're discussing. Then finally, use titles on graphs. Arrows as well, and summary diagrams, all really helpful. Now, typical design of a research poster is just like a piece of paper. All right, so how do you lay out your research poster? Well, it's like a piece of paper with, think of it like a newspaper or magazine with multiple columns. You start in the upper left corner, work your way down, then you go to the center column, work your way down, and then you go to the upper right column and you work your way down. That's how you lay out the poster, and it's also how you lay out your story that you want to take the viewer of your poster through. And so I'll probably start with the background, the problem, the methods. If you notice, that's kind of your introduction. Then you have your analysis in the center, or your main body, as we talked about in presentations. And then you finish it up with results, conclusion, and your sources on the right side. Now let's talk about presenting your poster. In all cases, business formal dress. You want to not only match what other listeners are wearing, but you want to exceed them. Do not wear a t-shirt, shorts, or anything relaxed. It'll come across as you aren't serious, and therefore your research won't be serious. You want to look good. You are all good looking, so you want to look good. And that's really where it comes down to. So if you even need a suit and tie, rent it for the poster presentation. It's worth it. Posture and body language. Just like in our presentations, you want to stand up straight with both feet flat on the floor. Women are actually allowed to lean a bit. It's kind of funny, men aren't, but women can. Direct eye contact. Let me drill it into you. Direct eye contact with listeners. It says you're confident, that you are confident about your research, that you know what you're doing. If you don't make direct eye contact with those approaching your poster, it's going to tell you you're not confident about your research, even though you might be. So always make direct eye contact. And then even with our presentation, hand motions are great. Ironically, show your palms. It's another topic for another day. Don't hide your palms, show your palms. It'll help bring those viewing a poster in, makes you look friendly. But especially in international cases, too many hand motions could be distracting. So that one's kind of tough, but overall they're great. And most important, show enthusiasm. You are selling your concept and your research, and you are selling you. And if you're not excited about yourself, neither will anybody else be. So that's what it comes down to. So, a lot of coffee, put the caffeine into you, but enthusiasm is probably the most important thing I could tell you to do. And then as far as next steps, if possible, have business cards or contact information for them to look up more information about you. And try to keep connected with those listeners. You'll make a lot of contacts, and they will remember you. All right, so let's talk about beyond the standard poster, infographics, the rebel version of the research poster. So here we have like a research poster that shows a lot of information about exploration of the solar system. You could have put it in a boring text-based poster, but here they actually show a diagram essentially of a relationship of everybody and where all the satellites have gone in the solar system. So it lays it out in a much more visual and story way than the traditional research poster. So to create an infographic, well, first you want to identify your audience and the message that you're trying to convey beforehand, just the same as a presentation. You want to make it visual appealing to the audience. You want to build awareness. The same rules for posters still apply. Maybe not as formal as far as the layout, but you want to have pictures, you want to have diagrams, you want to have maybe even quotes, but you want to make it interesting and intriguing. You also want simple illustrations. Complex illustrations will confuse the audience, so you do want to keep it simple. And then the color palette, only use 3 main colors. Here we got an example where they just use 3 different shades of blue and white. That's a good strategy. Beyond this, and then well-designed, tall form of presentations is a little bit different. But in case you want one key message, you want to tell a good story. Take your readers through a predetermined story. Here, for example, I love this poster because it gives an explanation of how runoff is created, where it goes through the earth, goes out to the ocean, evaporates, and starts a cycle over again. It guides the reader's eyes with a limited amount of words. And they're easy to understand. That's the main thing, the main purpose of infographics. And avoid lists. This is unconventional, so you want to avoid conventional lists, and by doing this, you'll help engage. Alrighty, that's it. Thanks for listening to all these videos. Hope you got something out of it. Feel free to download it. Just put a copyright in front of Mike's name. No, I don't care. But hope you got a lot out of it. Hope it was enjoyable. And I'll talk to you next week. Take care. Oh, and by the way, I forgot. There's a quiz. Do the quiz. Should be really simple if you listen to me. Talk to you later. Bye.